I Heart Midwives is all about why midwifery matters. So if you're pregnant, looking to become pregnant, someone with a uterus, or even care about someone with a uterus, then these conversations are going to be relevant to your life. Hi, I'm your host, Cheryl Fuder. I'm a practicing midwife, certified homeopath, educator, and health coach. I believe deeply in the midwives model of care, where pregnant women and people are fully listened to, their provider gets to know them beyond numbers on a chart, and where a place where continuity of care is a normal part of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Join us for stories about the history of midwifery, modern midwifery, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and midwife life hacks. Subscribe for new episodes and share why you love midwifery in the comments. Let's dive in. Hi, Megan. Welcome. I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are and where you're coming from.
Hi, I am Megan Bello. I am officially actually Bello as of today. I got my driver's license changed, so I'm a little behind on all of that. I had my daughter back in September at home, and I love traditional midwifery and just like what that just meant as far as having a baby. And this was like my first baby. I just I wanted to have this baby the most natural way I could do it. So, and I did, and I even had some sort of like scary complications that happened. And I still, I still am loving the way, like, I still love birth, and I still think that this is the way, like, I'm still not, worried or scared or, yeah.
Well, I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but tell us how you were introduced to midwifery. Like, how did it float into your life was it during your pregnancy, before your pregnancy? Share a little bit more about that.
I don't really know. I always knew that, like, I wanted to have like my baby at home. I don't know, like, why. Like, I just always was like, that just felt the most natural to me. I've just never wanted to, I just the hospital didn't feel safe for some people. Like, even for my family, I have family members too. They like prefer to go to a hospital and feel safe. And like, I think if that's where you want to give birth and you feel the safest, like, you should. But for me, I was just always very much like wanting to I knew I wanted to have my baby at home. And so because of that, I knew before I got pregnant, and when my husband and I were talking about getting pregnant, I just was going to take it a little bit like of a different approach. And instead of being like, what do I do when I was pregnant? I was going to just do what I sort of felt I needed to do in the moment while I was pregnant. So that led to reading a lot of like traditional midwifery sort of books, about, the first 40 days and nutrition. And my husband and I, we have a farm, so we raise our own, chickens and ducks and, veggies. So we do our nutrition's a lot of like bone broth and, whole foods and completely organic. So I knew that I wanted to do it that way. So I wasn't quite sure. There wasn't like a time where I was like, oh my God, I think honestly, the first time I was like, I love midwifery was when, like, talking about you with it. I'm like, I do, like, I had a connection with you, and my wheels started turning. But it just always felt natural. And I've been wanting to live as naturally as possible, especially the last few years.
What was your favorite traditional midwifery book when you were pregnant? Do you remember? I know you've mentioned the first 40 days, which is a postpartum book. Did you have another one? Or was that one your favorite?
I did read, I really liked that one. I read traditional or spiritual midwifery. There were a couple. I'm trying to like look at my bookshelf now. There wasn't a ton. I mean, I just read a lot of birth stories, and just I always just loved how everybody sort of like always knew what to do. Like, everybody was just sort of like, as long as everybody was mother centered, everything just sort of happened the way it needed to happen. So that was a really good one. I think, when I have my next baby, I'll probably read a lot more, because it'll be, because I kind of got like a taste for it. So I'm like trying to build my list. of midwifery books. I think I would like to read more. So I'll have to get recommendations from you for
Yeah,
what to add to the next round.
I definitely can share some recommendations. But I really love that you mentioned that that like client focused, that woman centered, the person who's actually pregnant and carrying the baby. That is like a core midwifery value, and it's part of being a midwife is that we really focus on the autonomy of the person who's actually carrying the baby, and listening to you and sharing your wisdom and integrating it with our wisdom so that we can really have the best pregnancy and birth and postpartum available to us. So I really love that you gleaned that from your readings and from your journey during your pregnancy in how you wanted to, have your pregnancy and your birth and postpartum as well. And so I think maybe sharing a little bit about your birth story, we talked a little bit about before we started recording, but you didn't really, technically you didn't hire a midwife, maybe a doula that served as someone to support you? Tell me a little bit more, because you were kind of like, maybe it was sort of a midwife.
Well, I had two women attend my birth, and I know that she wasn't a certified midwife, but she had attended other births, so I didn't do a ton of research on her, but she had just kind of come to me and connected to me through people. So I didn't do a ton of actually research when I hired her, but I believe everything happens for a reason. So I actually had her, and then I had my postpartum doula was there. Who I wanted to help me with that as well, because I had read in those books, you birth happens, and then the postpartum is sort of the period we need to be focusing on. So I was like, okay, you're coming to see me 3 days a week, 3 times a week, 4 hours a day for the first 4 to 6 weeks. And I was really strict on that. My family thought I was like kind of crazy for like paying for that. And but I was very focused on that. So both of them were there. And then it was me and my husband. So
That's lovely. What a lovely birth team.
It was great. And I went it was 40 weeks and 5 days, 6 days. Yeah. Cause she was born September 17th, and the guest date was September 11th. Had 2 independent ultrasounds, one just to verify pregnancy, and then one to find out the gender. So I had just so those were how I had sort of known, but I was very, very certain I was never going to have that baby. Like those days after 40 weeks are just really long. And it was like 11, and I felt the first contraction, and I was like, that's it. Like that's what the book said. So I texted her, and then so she texted the postpartum doula. So then they both came over, and I thought like a pretty regular labor. I labored for about 6 hours. And I hadn't had any traditional, like I said, sort of prenatal. I watched my own blood pressure. I weighed myself. I made sure I ate a lot of bone broth. Just sort of checked anything. And if I had felt I had needed more, I would have sought it out. And for example, when I was about 35 weeks, I had a stomach virus, and I was so sick I couldn't keep anything down. So I went into an ER, and they and that's the great thing about living in America is like you can do this. People think you're a little crazy, but you can do it. You have the power to do what you want and really like a la carte your life if you want to, and who's your OBGYN? I don't have one. You don't have a doctor? I don't need a doctor. Why don't you have a doctor? I haven't needed one yet. Well, what do you do? I'm like, well, I need one now. So do you have one now? Like, I'm sick. So yeah. I think it was great because I had that experience, and it was still a very positive medical experience. I was like, I need you to help me. And they helped me. I stopped vomiting. I came home. I was, I had COVID, but I was sick. I was, so I was, very thankful for that. And then, after I had I labored they started around, I think I slept, and then they didn't really come, so they didn't show up until about 2 a.m. And then it was right about, and it was traditional, like the in the ways of like, oh my God, the pain. Like I could feel, no one talks about, I could feel them in my legs and the bones of my legs. I had never read anything about that, but like right contractions, I could like a storm thing. And yeah, I'm very happy with everything I read, and I will definitely read more next time because that was a lot. And then like the book said, when as soon as you feel like you can't do it anymore, then you have her, and they got closer together. And then I had the ring of fire, and then I was pushing for 10 minutes, and then I had her, and the waters broke right as I had her, and it was just like this big, like, oh my goodness. And I was so thankful that Noelle, my doula, got pictures and video for me. And it was like magical. And I was just like, oh my God, like I just had my baby.
Did you have a water birth or on your bed in the hallway in the bathroom?
I was on the side of my bed, so I was in the tub
Lovely.
a little bit. My house was old and nowhere can sustain water. So I would like to, I think, do a water birth if I can where I'm at, because I'll always have my babies at home. But I'll want to do water next time, but not a water this time around.
It's still nice to have the water available for laboring, because it's just, an option to help manage everything.
I'm like a bath person. So I labored in the bathtub for a little while, and then just being on my back just wasn't comfortable. I kind of needed to get into more of a hunch once I got past a certain point. And then I had watermelons, and I did throw up a lot of my pregnancy and then into pregnancy. So I haven't thrown up since she was born, which has just been great. My life is really better without morning sickness.
Oh my goodness. And it sounds like you had it like almost throughout your entire pregnancy. So that's it happens. It's just so like, oh goodness, how do we support you in this?
Yeah, just a lot of broth. But yeah, so she was born right at 8 o'clock, and it was about 7:45. I was looking at the sun coming up over in the bathroom in my bedroom, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Wow, like, this is quite a feat. Like, no wonder everybody looked at me like I was nuts. Like, oh my God, like this is, and sure enough, I had her 10 minutes later. And my family, we all get on a family call every night. It started in COVID from 5:30 to 7 every night. We all hop on FaceTime.
That's
and
really nice
so
tradition.
I told them, I'm like, I'm going to have, it's great. And they all are more comfortable and would have been more comfortable with me. They were not so on board with me birthing at home. So I had FaceTimed them. So I told them, I said, I'm going to have the baby in the middle of the night, and I'm just going to FaceTime you, and it's just going to be over. Sorry. And they'd be like, no. So I did. I pulled up the FaceTime at 8:02, and I was like, here's the baby. And they were like, oh my God, and everybody freaks out. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go. I haven't birthed my placenta yet, so I got to go do that. And I went to the toilet, and the guy was trying to, like, you got to do this. And I was so tired. Like, it felt like I was just done, like the most done I've ever felt. And it was so magical holding my baby, but I could tell that something was wrong. And I went to the toilet, and I thought I birthed the placenta, and I could feel myself kind of just not feeling good. And I was like, I don't feel good. Let's go back to the bed. And I was like, let's cut the cord, because I had wanted to birth the placenta, have a lotus birth. Like, I was going to go. I kept telling her, I'm going full hippie about this thing. Like, I really want to have a natural birth possible. And so I had to cut the cord, and we still can't find that knife, which is weird, because we weren't planning on cutting it. So my husband had to actually grab a pocket knife to do it
wow.
that quickly. Yeah. And I went to lay on the bed, and the next thing I remember is my husband was holding my daughter, and I hear him scream, get her feet up. And the two women are around me, and they're like, oh my God, because I had passed out. And the gal, she's like, what do we do? What do we do? And I was kind of coming in and out, and I was like, it's time to call. Like, this is an emergency. Like, it happened so fast. I was on such a high from the birth. And then all of a sudden, like, I could tell the consciousness was gone. Like, everything had gone the way it was supposed to, but it was very intense very quickly. And so we called the ambulance, and they ended up coming to get me. And I was conscious the whole time. Like I remember I really wanted orange juice. And they said that was because my blood pressure was so low that I just wanted that sweet. And for some reason, I remember being totally confused that they didn't have orange juice in the ambulance. So I don't know why, but I really was like, oh my God, I just need some orange juice. And they were stabilizing me to put me into surgery because the placenta still was not coming out. I mean, at this time, everybody's doing everything they can. Like trying to pull me up, and it just wasn't happening. And they were they were giving me a blood transfusion. I needed 5 units. And the last memory I have before they put me under was my husband all bundled up to go into surgery, which I thought was so cute because we talked about not wanting to do that, and he just like did it, like he to be with me, and they I remember that the doc had the umbilical cord was yanking, like it was not the placenta wasn't coming out. I don't know what happened. And so I'm so thankful I'm so thankful for the surgery. I'm thankful that I had the women at home that I did, because they were able to was breastfeeding, take care for my daughter. Like my daughter didn't have to transfer. It was just me. And like I said, I was in a place where I was so grateful for for the intervention that I needed. And still was able to have, my birth at home. In the hospital was just wonderful. At the ICU, they moved me into labor and delivery so I could recover with my family. But the doc came in, they only kept me for one day. They wanted to keep me more. But she's like, I have a feeling you want to go home. And I'm like, what made you think I don't want to be here? um, but it was such a good, like, it wasn't what I had planned, but I think it was the perfect mixture of what I needed for, like, everything will be okay. And whether that be medical intervention or not. And even the doctor, she was like, I also disagree with unnecessary intervention. And I'm like, well, then I'm exactly where I need to be, because we align, like, no matter what, like, as long as you hold space for me and I hold space for you, this will be okay. So I hope next time I don't have a retained placenta. I have had, like, there's obviously been trauma in this birth, but the trauma is the trauma that I have already preemptively taken responsibility of. So it's so much easier to heal from the trauma that was just pushed on me unnecessarily, because you can't avoid it. But this was the way to go. Like, so I'm thankful at the end of the day this happened to me, because I can be like, I can never have a baby at home, because what if this happened? Like, what if it happens? Like, what? Yep. And it will still be the most beautiful experience, the best experience, and it'll be your call, because newsflash, we live in America, and most people are really close to these wonderful medical professionals who, no matter what sort of situation you come from, like, there are plenty of doctors who want to save your life in the moment, no matter who you voted for or what your skin color is or what you believe in. Like at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like they will be there. So taking ownership and responsibility of that was really, really empowering for me.
Mm-hmm. And, like, midwifery is actually like the gold standard around the world. The United States has, there's a long history of propaganda and suppression of it. That's mixed into, like, xenophobia and racism, just a whole background of that, which we're not going to get into. But this piece around, midwives really being able to, come and, we bring all of our equipment, we bring our sterilized instruments, we bring all of our supplies to help manage a situation. And, I would say postpartum hemorrhage is one of the most common complications that I've managed. And so being able to stabilize a situation and making decisions based on, like, how much blood is lost, how's mom feeling, what's going on, and being able to make those decisions really quickly and having plans for each of that is just part of the midwifery model of care that I practice, and a lot of the midwives I know practice. And so being able to get that care that you said, just was like, okay, this is the next step. This is what we need to do. And really making those very quickly as needed. So yeah, that's really great that you got all that care, and that even though it was not what you had planned, that you're able to process it and kind of hold it in your heart with a sacred lining because, birth, I use this metaphor a lot that like, we all get into the car when labor starts and we don't know what the road ahead looks like, but we know that there's a baby at the end. And, Colorado is a great metaphor for this because it could be a highway, it could be a mountain road, the road could be washed out, it could be, a mudslide, there could be a boulder in the road. I have literally driven up and found a boulder in the road and was like, okay, I guess I have to turn around. So like, having your midwife there, having professionals there that really have traveled that road, that understand the road, that understand what to do when we need to take, a detour, when we need to move into, try new things. It really shows like that expertise and skill that comes with being a midwife that like, okay, let's make the next plan. Let's, manage it in the way that needs to be managed so that we have the best outcome for mom and baby. Yeah. And midwives all around the world do that, whether they are here in America or not, whether they have access to emergency resources immediately or not.
Right.
And with really great outcomes in the places where they're supported. There's places where it's more dangerous to practice and to be, anyone. There's more places to be, but story about how midwifery has impacted you now that you're 4 months plus postpartum?
I think midwifery has impacted me in a way where I have incorporated more strong feminine relationships into my life. And then I really believe that my, studying and working on and reading the midwifery and going this route with my birth and pregnancy and my postpartum really has helped me kind of bounce into motherhood so much more gracefully than I would have had I not have had the support and had the help. So that I think is the biggest difference because I do I own a real estate business. I have 8 agents at my company, and so I'm not a typical working mother in my circles. And I was talking because I was on a real estate podcast earlier about how it's funny because like you have business conversations with birth people and they're like, or you have birth conversations with business people and they're like you can't, but there's so many like similarities sort of like between the two. So this just been like to be just like as natural as possible and then to be able to take this knowledge to like others. Like I was able to, message another mom friend of mine and just encourage her for her breastfeeding journey. And like, of course, whatever you do to feed is fine, but like to be like, no, like it is my superpower that I'm exclusively breastfeeding my baby. Like I go to meetings and if she's hungry, she eats because if you're hungry, I allow you to eat too. So it applies for you. It applies for her. Like, and I make comments. There are no changing tables in bathrooms in office buildings. I don't know if anyone knows this, but like, oh my God, she's changed all over the place because there's like no, like, so I say, you guys, this is not a lot of preparedness from a society run by former babies. Like, come on, guys. Like, we were all. Do women not need to go to conduct business at some point? You know what I mean? Like, do people not buy houses with babies? I'm so confused. Like, why don't we have these things here? So I think I think midwifery has helped me just overall align with like my why and who I am and why I do what I do in every facet of my life. So it's become a very cool part of just who I am and why I do what I do. But yeah,
I just got goosebumps. Like that's huge. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, I would love to hear more about like how people can find you if they want to get in touch. You were talking about being a mother businesswoman, a woman business mother.
Yeah.
How can people connect with you?
My company is called Motion Homes Group. So my website is motionhomesgroup.com. I am on Facebook and Instagram. My name is Megan Bello, Bello, and my Instagram handle is Megan Bello 0102. So like or 0102, so not O actually. 0102. So yeah, I want to talk about all things birth and rebirthing and business and anything. I like to chat. This would be I would love to connect, and I'm so thankful to have connected with you because this was great. I actually haven't. This is like the first official thing of my birth story. Like I haven't like it's just been like on notes in my phone here and there. Like this is so special for me. So thank you so much for doing this because this is awesome.
Wow, I love that. And yeah, I also love marrying birth and business together. There's another podcast that I was on that's a business podcast where I talked about birth and midwifery and how it all is important and it relates to together, like how they blend and how they marry. And like you said, this is a
Yeah.
society ran by former babies, and so why aren't we set up more for people with babies, and roles are changing. That might be dad who's bringing baby to work. That might be, partner
Right.
or mom or whoever is caring for that baby. Like, we don't need to be, there's the balance. Like, when you want to be home and private and rest or busy at home, that's like loved and allowed. And then if you want to be out in the world and in business, work, of course, shopping and other things, but like these places that aren't common, like that should just be totally integrated. It shouldn't be like something weird. So I love that.
And it needs to be acknowledged because I think a lot of people, especially in my industry, they're like, oh my goodness, you're working, that's awesome. But like that was never the goal. Like, of course, productivity in my business and I have those business goals are one thing, but like I can do this because I focused on my postpartum. I focused on resting. My butt was in bed. Like, and I was not only recovering from like a birth, but I was also recovering from significant blood loss and a blood transfusion. So I couldn't like stand up to use the bathroom the whole 24 hours I was kept in the hospital. Like I had to page a nurse to like go to the bathroom. Like I had to have a catheter, which I wanted to avoid. Like it was a lot of sort of humbling experiences to turn into that positive thing because these were things that I didn't want to have happen to me. But yeah, this I'm honoring the mother, honoring our postpartum, working, those are the center. As long as I'm making sure that I'm mothering at my best, I'm a better business owner, a better real estate broker, a better coach to my agents, like that's where I'm the best. And as soon as I start to deteriorate, everything else deteriorates. So I need to make sure that my cup is full because with my cup is full, I can continue to give to everybody that I give to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as midwives, that's what we do is we want you to have your full empowerment and being able to honor your whole self, your holistic self, and honor the journey that we travel. Like I said, we don't always know, we almost never know what that journey's going to look like. We have ideas, we have predictions, but the journey is what it is. And so really honoring you in your journey. Yeah. I'm so grateful
Thank you
that,
so much.
yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful that we got to like kind of hear your birth story in its entirety for the first time. So again, just thank you so much for sharing that. And I love your why and how midwifery has helped you really solidify your why and who you are and the impact that you want to have in the world. Um, so we'll have all the links in the comments, and I just really appreciate you for sharing about why you love midwives. Thank you so much.
Thank you.